Guys, what is going on? My name is Ryan. I play chess and put my videos on YouTube here. Today I wanted to continue my Beginner to Chess Master series here and talk a little bit about pins. Pins are one of the most common tactic in all of chess, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk a little bit about it today. So what is a pin? A pin is basically a situation brought on by an attacking piece in which a defending piece cannot move without exposing a more valuable defending piece on its other side to capture by the attacking piece. To pin refers to the action of the attacking piece inducing the pin, and the defending piece, so restricted, is described as pinned. Only pieces that can move an indefinite number of squares in a horizontal, vertical, or diagonal line, for example, bishops, rooks, and queens, can pin opposing pieces. Kings, knights, and pawns cannot pin, in other words. Basically, the paralysis of a pinned piece has several consequences. The most important is that it becomes a vulnerable target on the chessboard for you. Normally, when you threaten one piece with another, the target piece has the option of running away. However, in a pin, this is not the case. It is trapped on its square. The only way to protect it is by rallying other pieces to its defense. Thus, the usual next step after a pin is to go after the pinned piece with other artillery for you. Preferably something small but lethal, such as a pawn, but anything less valuable than the pinned piece may make a fine attacker. Often a series of pieces from both sides will rush to the scene of the pin. In that case, the outcome depends on how the number and value of the pieces attacking and pinned piece compare to those defending it. Time is of the essence in these situations, since as moves go by, it often becomes possible for your enemy king to move and thus to release the pinned piece from its predicament. Alright, so there are 4 kinds of pins, and I wanted to run through all of them quickly. An absolute pin is one where the piece shielded by the pinned piece is the king. In this case, it is illegal to move the pinned piece out of the line of attack, as that would place one's king in check. For example, a absolute pin is one with this bishop and this knight to this king right here. A relative pin is one where the piece shielded by the pinned piece is a piece other than the king, but typically more valuable than the pinned piece, such as a rook or a queen. You can see that here with this rook attacking this knight, but behind the knight is the queen. This is a relative pin. Moving such a pinned piece is legal, but it may not be prudent, as the shielded piece would then be vulnerable to capture. If a rook or queen is pinned along a file or rank, or a bishop or queen is pinned along a diagonal, the pin is a partial pin. The pinned unit can still move along its line, but cannot leave that line. Okay, this is an example of a partial pin. This queen cannot leave this horizontal file right now, but it is allowed to move around as it pleases. A second example of a partial pin would be right here. The queen takes, right, it's able to move along this file, but it's not able to leave this file because it's pinned to the king right here. And lastly, sometimes in a chess position, a piece may be considered to be in a situational pin. There's no actual pin, but it's not able to move a piece because the result of him moving that piece would be detrimental to the rest of the game for that side. In a situational pin, moving the pinned piece out of the line of attack will result in a situation detrimental to the player of the pinned piece, such as checkmate. Although a situational pin is not an absolute pin, and the pinned piece can still be moved according to the rules, moving out of line of attack can result in a bad situation or even immediate loss of the game. This is an example of a situational pin. The rook is pinning this knight right here to this rook. So this knight cannot move. For example, if it captured the vulnerable bishop, our next move would be to come down here with check, and the king would be forced to move here, and we would win their rook and be in a very nice rook endgame, rook versus a minor piece endgame. This is one of the most common examples of a relative pin in the game. Right here in the opening, you can see that this bishop is pinning this knight to the queen and making it so the queen cannot go anywhere or else ruin his king's safety. For example, something like this. And what I like to do in this situation is to often either break the pin right away or move a bishop in front of it so I can keep my king's safety and also protect this knight and allow myself to maneuver my queen where I want now without concern of this. So I wanted to just quickly go over some tactics here and then finish with one of my own games that exploits pins and explain my thought process through that. So here I like to start with some easier tactics and work our way up to more challenging ones. Here we can have an interesting position and black and white to move, and white makes a blunder here by allowing me to exploit a pin. This allows me to bring my queen over here now, forgetting about this pawn here, and pin this rook to this king here. You can see now that he has one defender, the king. It's an absolute pin, and we have 2 attackers here. So his next move is to defend it again. So now it's defended twice, but the pin is so strong in this situation that we can do this, and the pin is still on. So our next move is going to be to immediately apply more pressure to this pin if we can. For example, if he does not react to this pin, it'll result in, a detrimental amount of material loss to still, try and win this game. And we'll see that here. me bringing my rook over here and adding another attacker to this would win the game, because the queen here can no longer defend this, and none of the other pieces are able to defend it either. So I'm going to come up here with check with my queen and soon win the game afterwards. This is an example I liked because it kind of exploits one of the most common pins in the game, and that is with a bishop to a knight to a king or a queen. And we'll see that here with this. So he brings his bishop here, pinning my knight. He thinks that it's protected by this knight right now, which is correct, but we come up here and pin this piece. Now this bishop is vulnerable. I can attack this with my queen now and win this if he does not immediately address this pin. Or he should just sacrifice himself right now, and that's what he does. I'm now able to recapture with my queen, and you can see that I have two attackers to 0 defenders. So he's not able to get out of this without losing a ton of material. So he does, maybe what is the most logical thing, and he brings his bishop out. So we take, and he tries to put us in a relative pin now by making it so, he can recapture this queen. However, this does not work because we're able to come in with check and keep our free knight that we won originally. So check, and he's going to recapture somehow, and then we're going to move our queen out of the way into safety. This is a bit more challenging of a situation here, but you can see that white has a major attacking advantage. Right away, you can see that this rook is, attacked twice. You would think that this knight could recapture here, but it's in an absolute pin. And our rook here is protected by this bishop and this queen. So he moves to what is the only square I believe he can move to, and this allows us to set up a nice checkmate. So we come here, sacrifice our rook. He recaptures with the queen, or the king. It doesn't make a difference. It was a double check, so he's forced to capture with the king. It's a double check from this bishop and this rook. So he recaptures with the king, and this allows us to deliver checkmate. And once again, this knight is still pinned to the king, so he cannot defend against checkmate here. I find second to last example. So he makes the blunder of moving his queen right there, and this allows me to immediately get rid of this knight, because he's trying to attack this knight. I don't know what he's trying to do, but we immediately get rid of this knight. He recaptures, and we apply pressure and start a pin. Notice that this bishop is protected by this knight, and obviously the queen doesn't want to make that trade, 6 to 8. And we're also attacking this bishop over here. So if he moves his king anywhere, we're able to win a free bishop. So what he does is he puts a knight in front of it, which is not an awful move in this situation. He's threatening checkmate right here. And he's also defending against this. For example, if we capture here, we can simply recapture with our queen, and after the queens come off, he's going to be fine. But like I said in the early stages, or the early part of this video, is that whenever you have a pin against a major piece like this, a queen, you should immediately apply more pressure to that piece. And I said that you can do that with anything of lesser value. Your best attacker in this situation is definitely going to be your pawn. So we basically won a free knight in this exchange, and soon to be a free bishop. And lastly, I wanted to walk through a full game with you guys to try to explore some more ideas of a pin in one of my own games here. It was a queen's pawn declined, and these are the first initial moves. I bring my bishop out to stop against any of this pin right here. I castle, and he brings his bishop here, which is kind of an odd move in this situation. I go ahead and go forward and try to push back against the center. And he brings his knight down here, which is a relatively pointless move, in my opinion. I just continue to develop and attack this bishop here. If he recaptures with the bishop, I'm in fine shape. I can just, recapture with the knight here again, and we're going to be fine against this checkmate threat right here. So he captures a piece, and I capture another piece. It's kind of a double attack in a way, because if he moves this knight into safety or doesn't attack this with the bishop, which he doesn't end up doing, I basically win either of these pieces, is what I'm saying, if he doesn't recapture with the bishop. But instead, he goes ahead and captures with the pawn, and the problem with ignoring a threat is that a bigger threat can be created when you ignore a threat, unless you've calculated correctly. And what he does is he does that and allows me to win a free bishop. He comes in and wins a third pawn with check, so I'm forced to respond to it. I don't want to take back with the rook, because he'll just take my knight, or my rook, with his knight. So I take with my knight. His knight out of the way, and now I have a serious advantage in the form of development right now, as we can see. So I go over here, develop my last piece, and now all my pieces are in the game. So he scoots out of the way. I come over here and defend against this pin to my rook and threaten to take the queen. Queen moves back. Now this pawn is vulnerable. So I get this bishop out of the way and protect my pawn. He comes down with the pawn, and I'm able to exploit this file being owned by my knight. And at this point in the game, I almost view his side as only making 2 moves, because this pawn and this pawn are the only thing off of his second rank. your original starting position. So that's just to kind of emphasize my development right here. So he scoots his queen out of the way, obviously, and I get my knight rearranged because I saw this pawn right here, and my thought process was that this knight is going to be very limited for the rest of the game. So I want to get him, I want as much piece activity right now as possible. He goes ahead and brings another pawn into the game, I guess. This bishop is pretty shut in unless he wants to, lose a pawn. I go ahead and bring this pawn right here because I don't want him to have any, counterplay with this knight over here. I don't want him to foresee any counterplay with this knight at all. For example, he could move it to safety here and then, over here or right here. And I wanted to take away this square from him. That's also blocking in this bishop here. He attacks my rook. I scoop my rook up. He castles, and I set up a pin. For example, if I move this pawn up one, it's check. So this is going to be a common theme for the rest of the game. And you can see here the tactic that I kind of set up. I'm offering him a free bishop at this point right now. So if he took my free bishop and I came in here with pawn check, he would be losing the queen by pawn, or he's either going to be forced to recapture my bishop, and I'll move up with my rook here. So that was my thought process. He brings the king out of check, so now he can freely take on this bishop. I move the bishop out of the way. He attacks it again, and I attack his queen. You can see how active my pieces are right now, how active my bishops are. He goes ahead and scoots it down. I want to defend this rook here. Get my last piece off my rank, and now we're good to start attacking. He defends this pawn or whatever. For example, if I came back here, I could win this now. So he defends it with this rook, and I bring my knight off and offer an exchange to strengthen this open file, which is currently dominated by my pieces. He does take the exchange, and I just bring my pawn up. He scoots it back, and now a lot of the similar pins and tactics are on right now. I get my last, most powerful piece involved in the game, and he takes the time to scoot his king back, which I think is a blunder and a wasted move. This allows me to now come over and threaten to take this bishop. He scoots it back, and this allows me to exploit this absolute pin on this pawn here. This is good, ideas for attacking chess in your own games. I go ahead and take this pawn because it is pinned. And if he allowed me to take this square right here, take this pawn, that would be checkmate. So he scoots that pawn up, and I sacrifice the exchange with my rook. He takes it, and I take back with check. The reason that he resigned at this point is because of this this situation. If he were to move his king here, I would push this pawn and win the queen because of the check right here. I think that's interesting because you can think of your own pieces as being pinned, and when you unpin them with check, that is a very strong move in any situation of the game. Anyways, this was my video on pins and how to use them in your own chess games. I wish you the best of luck, and have a good day. What's up, guys? Thanks again for watching my video here today. I really appreciate it, and if you have any questions about any specific moves or anything about the game, please leave them below. I'd love to answer those. And last but not least, if you got anything out of this video at all, or you just simply enjoyed it, I would highly encourage you to subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and that way you can, get in touch with any future videos that I put out. Anyways, have a good rest of your day, and good luck in your chess.